Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
And we're back.
We cannot make that our permanent intro line.
We can't. I know. It's just shit keeps getting stuck in my head, and I apologize for it. I mean, at least I'm not continuing it out with man in the box. Get back in the box. Oh, God. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Wildcard Cinema. This is our penultimate episode of season 1.
Time flies.
Yes, I know. I'm your producer here at the network, JJAlexander. Joining me as always, Mark and Greg. Gentlemen, how is your holiday weekend going?
Oh, busy.
Mine is going spectacularly.
Mark got his mic to work.
Awesome.
It's beautiful.
Made my whole weekend getting this puppy going.
Yeah. So you spend Thanksgiving with family, Greg?
Yeah, I got volunteered to drive 5 hours round trip to pick up my grandfather.
Oh, jeez.
His assisted living. So, yeah, as the only person who works in the family on Wednesday and Friday, it was glorious. But
ridiculous.
But happy to do it for him. He was happy. Yeah, things are great. Things are difficult when you have grandparents of a certain age, but we make it work, and like I said, happy to do it for them. So, but aside from that, it was a pleasant meal and visit. So, and I was actually home a lot earlier than I thought I would be, so it was pretty good. Then right into 48 hours of working nonstop.
Right. I know it's busy season for that now.
Yep. My manager was like on the phone with me at 5:42 today, and he's like, "Are you still in a store?" And I'm like, "Yep." So,
yep. It's gonna be that way until December 30th.
Yeah. The craziest part is out of the way. So
yeah, and then it'll be dead until Memorial Day.
All too true.
How about you, Mark?
I spent the holiday with family, and it was very lovely.
That's nice. I spent the holiday with friends just because couldn't handle, after the last surgery, couldn't handle the long trip to New Hampshire. So wifey went up to see her parents on her own, and I visited the same friends that we visited the last couple of years for Thanksgiving. It's our friend Nikki and her husband Daniel in New Britain. Which they like doing because like turkey is such a bitch. They like doing Polish Thanksgiving. So literally we just do the spread of pierogi and kielbasa, and they did like potato gnocchi and mushroom sauce and like latkes and all the spread, and it's awesome. Mark knows what it's about.
Yeah, I've been to one. Thanksgivings. It was wonderful.
You know what the greatest part was? Getting sent home with a bunch of these.
Damn you.
Polish Kit Kats, baby.
Damn it.
Oh, life is so good.
Looks good.
So anyways, this is not for you, puppy. It has chocolate. You can't have it. My dog is sitting here with like shoestrings of drool down the side of his face, sitting here next to me. Not for you, not for puppies. Sorry. So yeah, welcome to Wildcard Cinema. This is the movie podcast where we do things just a little bit differently. what happens is at the beginning of the season, we all started off with 10 movie titles that all went into a container. And each week, well, sorry, not each week, every other week, we each pull a movie out. We all review it. And then, depending on who pulled the movie at the beginning of the review, at the end of the portion of the review, we give them the dealer's choice of why they chose the movie. Could be because they love it. Could be because they hate it. Could be because they think not enough people have seen it. Could be because they think too many people have seen it, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned, this is the penultimate episode of the season. This is episode 9, so we literally only have one episode left in the season after this. Rest assured, we will still keep going. We may do a little something different for the end of the year, because that's just how it's ended up falling. Is after episode 10, like the next scheduled time would be the last weekend of December. So we may do like a 2024 kind of year in review type thing, and then we'll move on to season 2. But yeah, we'll do it the way we do. So I'm trying to think who went first last week.
Oh, I have no idea.
I think Mark did. I think.
Okay, so let's see here. So Greg, should we start off with yours this week?
Sure.
All right. What was your poll?
I had 1998's Bulworth.
And away we go.
By March 1996, Bob Dole and President Clinton had locked up their party's presidential nominations. And while California approached its primary with little fanfare or attention, Democratic Senator J. Billington Bulworth embarked upon the final weekend of his re-election campaign.
You promised us federal funding to rebuild our community. What happened?
Well, you haven't really contributed any money to my campaign, have you?
Are you saying that the Democratic Party don't care about the African American community?
Isn't that obvious? I mean, you don't put down that malt liquor and chicken wings and get behind somebody other than a running back who stabs his wife. You're never going to get rid of somebody like me. That was really good. Yo to you.
Later.
I was hoping for sooner. Senator, what is this new strategy? Just tell me a little bit.
Senator Bulworth. Excuse me, Senator. Do you think it's wise to seek the support of the entertainment industry when you have such low opinion of our product?
My guys are not stupid. They always put the big Jews on my schedule. Excuse me? Murphy put something bad about Farrakhan in here for you. Let me look. Miss, you be really honest with me and don't spare my feelings. Do you have any more of the little crispy crab cakes?
All right. So, wrong screen. All right. So Bulworth came out in 1998. It was written by Jeremy Pixar and Warren Beatty. Those were the two credited writers. I have some info on some other people that contributed. Directed by Warren Beatty. Starring Warren Beatty, Halle Berry, Don Cheadle, Oliver Platt, among many others. With a budget of $30 million, it fell just short at the box office with a total pull-in of $29.2 million. All right, Greg. So, dealer's choice. You're going to tell us the beginning of the end why you chose this.
I'm going to wait till the end.
Okay. You mind if I do the honors, Mark?
Please.
All right. I was happy as a pig in shit when this got pulled. Like this, this was a day off for me. Like this is in my top 25 of all time. Like
Nice.
I have told so many people how much I love this movie over the past 25 years. Like it was just I just going to watch it again. I was just like it still holds up, and like I watch it frequently. So it's not like it's been a long time since I watched it. I think because checking my log, I think the last time I watched it was like a month ago. So but yeah, just I said for so many years, I remember there was a time when Warren Beatty was actually considering running for well, he was considering running for governor of California, and people were talking about him running for actual president. And I said I wouldn't vote for Warren Beatty, but I'd vote for Jay Bulworth.
I actually want to circle back to that when I talk, but so
Okay.
that's a better reminder. Yeah.
Oh, and actually, because I always forget going before we go any forward, just so you know. Spoilers ahead for everything we talk about. And yeah, I actually forgot to give the synopsis of the movie. The synopsis is a suicidally disillusioned liberal politician puts a contract out on himself and takes the opportunity to be bluntly honest with his voters by affecting the rhythms and speech of the hip hop music and culture. Yeah, like I said, I just don't have enough good things to say about this movie. I think it's one of the top 3 soundtracks of 90s movies that came out. The other two in my top 3 there being The Crow and Judgment Night. But yeah, just an amazing soundtrack. The original score that was produced was good, and one of the things that I always love is if you actually watch through the credits, there's like a fading in and out of the original score with songs from the soundtrack, and it's like slightly ethereal. It's beautiful to listen to. But yeah, it's wrong screen. I keep pulling up the wrong shit. It's still odd to me though at the beginning when he's like watching his 30-second spots, how like all of them are so extremely conservative when he's a Democrat. I mean, granted, they tried to touch on that a little further where they're like, you're an old liberal trying to squeeze himself into a new conservative bottle or whatever, but it was just like every ad he ran was like very Republican.
I actually, before rewatching it, I thought he was Republican every other time I watched the movie, and I just forgot because
of those ads at the beginning.
And I know, and then I read a little bit about it, and I guess I don't know if they touch on it too much, but I guess he's like trailing his opponent at a certain point, and he's shifting his views to try and grab the conservative aisle.
Yeah, when Oliver Platt walks in right at the beginning, he says we're down 4 points in the primary.
Yeah.
And he says, but we pulled in this much, and we have the brunch at the Beverly Wilshire, and blah 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 blah. Yeah. And just the one of the things that I love is the deflection through the first half of the movie, where you're thinking that the paparazzi guy is the assassin until the time when Halle Berry picks up the phone.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, and shit, and they're like, oh, Vinny owns the nightclub they were at, and like, holy shit, like this was all an elaborate setup from the beginning. Like, I mean, kind of half-assed, but elaborate. And then you're sitting there second guessing. You're like, so why is this guy still following him? Until you find out that he's working for Nora Dunn, which I don't know if Nora Dunn's just a really good actress or she's just a giant bitch in general. Cause I think she's talented, but it's like she all I ever see her playing is bitchy parts. And then I see like interviews, like I remember when they did like the Dark Side of Comedy episode on Andrew Dice Clay, and they talked about the time he was gonna host Saturday Night Live, and Nora Dunn was like, I'm not fucking working here anymore, and walked out and shit. Yeah. Which I agreed with in a way, but like she was just so bitchy about it. So yeah. The amount of cameos in this movie, like I can't get over it. Like both actor wise and political wise, like they just keep popping up out of nowhere. One thing I hadn't noticed before was when they're driving through South Central near the beginning and they stop outside a movie theater, the movie theater's playing Superfly and Blackula. Yep. I was like, how had I never noticed that before? I've watched this movie a ton of times.
I always say the best movies, you catch something new every time you watch it.
Right. The only thing I don't think aged well in this was when Sean Astin starts talking to the girl and he mentions Ebonics. I'm like, remember when that was a thing?
Yeah, I think that was Sean Astin's only line in this entire movie.
No, he had like a half-hour rant that they just used clips of in that. because he starts with the Ebonics and then he goes, and then there's a part where they keep walking by him because then he's just like, Budweiser flying around the Super Bowl. We're advertising, get drunk and fly around.
I want to mention something about what you just said, how the Ebonics line hasn't aged well. For a movie like this to only have like one thing not age well is pretty damn amazing.
Right. Everything else is like still so damn spot on.
Yeah. I mean, one of my notes was, it's amazing to me that a movie 26 years old spelled out the game of politics perfectly and nothing has changed and no one seems to have cared.
Right. Like we even in a post Obamacare era, we're still living with all that bullshit with insurance companies. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Yep. And like there's also the one line that is still used in all the time. And Warren Beatty says, and when he's rapping, he says, what's that dirty word? Socialism. And it's like, it's still like the boogeyman on like any topic that you use. It's amazing.
Yeah. One other thing I don't think is age well, just because I never heard it before then, and I've never heard it since, is the term nappy dugout. I've never heard it anywhere else.
Really?
I think Ice Cube might say it in a line.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think you're right, Greg.
Yeah.
But it's like the movie's great because it has an amazing political message that is still like contemporary, but just how hilarious it is, and just like so many throwaway lines are just so great. Just like when he's hitting on Halle Berry outside the church, he's like, "You trying to mac on my sister?" And then like they're leaving, and he's just like, "Mac on his McAvoy. What does Mac mean?" Or my all-time favorite scene, and like this is like one of my favorite scenes in a movie in general of all time, and it's so stupid, is like when it's like 5 a.m. at the club and you see the DJ spin and it pans up and it's Warren Beatty doing the spinning and it just pans out and it goes back and he's just like, West Side. It still kills me every time. The pussy and the dick and the pussy and the dick. West Side.
There's another time where he's in the limo and he's almost doing like Beavis impression.
Yeah.
And I never noticed that before either. And I was like, that's
Nina
doing Beavis. Like,
all right. So Mark, floor's open.
I didn't enjoy this as much as you guys did. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
I saw it once when it first came out on video. And Joe, I know you like this movie. I was aware of that, obviously. But I watched it again for this and I just couldn't get into it. I didn't think it was bad or anything. I've been so I just overdosed on politics and stuff that I guess I just wasn't in the mood for anything political or something that I would have to think about in any political terms whatsoever. So it was kind of like a chore for me because I was just so burnt out.
That's
but that's really not the movie's fault. I thought the rapping was so cringy, and I know it was supposed to be, but I was cringing for real. And I had a little bit of a problem with the fact that it was only about a politician's relationship with the Black community and no other communities whatsoever. I think if you're going to dive into how Democrats are falling short, you should probably do it across the board. And I didn't like that there's a trope in films called the mystical Black person.
You got to be a spirit, Bulworth. You can't be no ghost.
And this movie has one. And in fact, not only was I cringing at that, but then they doubled down on it and added an extra scene after the movie was over, or when it should have ended, with the shot in the blackness. And then we get a returning scene with this guy who literally talks to the screen now. See, I thought that was not so good.
Always been one of my favorite parts of it. Like I quote that line so often. And I think the only reason they added that in was because the ending is still ambiguous, but you see him standing outside the hospital, meaning that they got Bulworth to the hospital and he's in there. So you still don't know if he's going to live or die.
That's what was going to happen. You didn't see him die. He's just laying there. So
yeah, you basically saw him get shot right here. So like, that's right near the heart.
I guess, but I think it would have been more poetic if it just faded to black.
Mm.
But that's a little nitpick, I guess. That's
your
really
point,
all I have to say about it. I thought the soundtrack was decent. Ennio Morricone did the score. I didn't even really hear it.
Because a lot of it's overtaken by John Philip Sousa marches.
Oh.
But it's there. It's very mild. That's how you know the score is good, because you can't even tell when it's there.
I was surprised to see that during the credits. I was like, holy shit! Ennio Morricone did the score. Like I did not remember. I probably when I saw it first, it definitely wouldn't have registered to me. I wouldn't, when I was that age, I wouldn't have known who Ennio Morricone even was. And
right.
In the few times I've rewatched it, I didn't notice. Is that all you have to say, Mark? I can jump in.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Okay, yeah, because so what I'll say is part of the reason I picked this is because I mean I do like it quite a lot, and I have from the beginning of me seeing it, but it's never been streaming anywhere really.
Yeah.
And,
really,
and it doesn't even have a Blu-ray release.
Yeah,
I have an old DVD from when it came out in DVD, and that's it. So which was even weirder because when I fired it up, I noticed that it was what is now a Disney property. So why is it not on Disney Plus? Why is it not on Hulu?
You know why? Because of the whole thing he says about the Jews in Hollywood, and that's why we'll never get a Blu-ray release of it.
Interesting.
The same thing that they just did with Ernest Goes to Camp.
I thought it might be because I'm not positive if Disney has sole ownership of it or Warren Beatty does, because at that time he was so powerful, and I know that he wrote it and directed it, and he might own it outright. So
well, I know he doesn't own completely outright, because I know at least some of the rights of it are owned by Frank Capra III.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have a ton to even add. Because some of it I wrote down stuff that I really liked or I think is really funny is in the trailer, which is another reason why I fucking hate trailers. But but the acting talent when you go back and watch a movie like this though is like just so great. Like I forgot Don Cheadle was the guy, like the main
right.
And it's like, dude, you have Don Cheadle, you have Laurie Metcalf and Wendell fucking Pierce playing like the minorest of roles.
Yep.
Like, dude, like that's Wendell Pierce is like a bit player. Like, okay, sign me up. Like,
if you actually go, you go through the credits too, you know who had a bit part like with no lines in it? Sarah Silverman.
Yes, I saw that too. Yep. Really? And I tried to find her and tried to notice her, and I couldn't really.
She was one of the aides in the Washington offices early in the movie.
Yeah, I think I might have saw her face for a second, but I was looking for it. I didn't notice it. Oliver Platt's really good. I don't know if you guys watched The Bear. I mean, he's so good.
Oh God, I've loved Oliver Platt since JFK. Like,
So, I mean, so the cast is like perfect, and you know what, Beatty at the time, again, Warren Beatty at that time. I mean, he can get pretty much anybody to be. I mean, I don't know if you guys are too well versed about like what Beatty did and pulled to get Dick Tracy made, and like the
yes. Mark's very familiar.
Yeah. So
how he keeps the rights alive by doing weird ass shit like that Turner Classics interview,
Leonard Maltin interviews that technically legally count as sequels.
Yep. And like, you know, just the cast alone in that, which is like, you know, he was getting, you know, he just gets whoever he wants, obviously.
Right.
So, but I did say that, you know, Beatty is 60 in this movie, and him dancing like that gives me a lot of hope that I can still get down.
Still cut a rug at 60.
And while I don't think Beatty is a flashy director by any standards, although you know, Dick Tracy is obviously a different animal. Probably has a pretty accomplished cinematographer if I went back and looked. But I did love the scene in the debate with all the background lights on and all the figures look shadowy.
Yes.
And it's really, really well shot. I love that. And I only have one question to end on. I actually didn't tell you why I picked the movie. I'll do that.
We're waiting on it.
But Mike, I have one question to pose. Is Bulworth a white savior?
I don't know about that. To go back and speak on Mark's comment about how it's like, well, it focuses too much on the black community. The reason that was the focus was because he's the senator of that portion of California that deals with South Central LA. So that is his main constituency. So that's why they focus so much on that and nothing else. Yeah, that's why like when he's in South Central and you see the campaign stuff like in the background and shit, like that's the portion of California that he was representing in the Senate.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think at the time it was made too, that was probably like the logical way to go to get like, you know, like when you're making, you know, like Dangerous Minds came out around this time. I believe, and like, you know, I think that's
kind of what I was thinking of. Like, it's like another story about a white person, and
which is probably why I had the white savior comment question. But
that's a really good question, actually.
So you know, but the reason I picked it, aside from just the non-streaming stuff and everything, is I really just loved it when I first saw it. I mean, I'm a longtime listener of Howard Stern, and when Howard was a maniac and not the long form interviewer guy that's done 30 years of therapy now, he was a maniac in the 90s, and when he did get an A-lister on his show back then, it usually went terribly. And Warren Beatty came on to promote this movie because he had a huge stake in it and wanted it to be successful. And the interview was shaky, but it got me to go see it just based on being on the show. And I went to see it myself in Southington, and I liked it enough that I worked at Shaw's in Southington on Queen Street, and because of where because of where it was located,
next to Strawberries.
Yeah, we had people that worked at Shaw's that went to Plainville High School too, because of how close it was. So I was friends with like a group of Plainville kids, and I used to actually hang out with them really on the weekends more than my high school. I didn't have high school friends anymore because I was still living at home going to UConn Waterbury. So like
Amber and Kristen.
Yep.
I ended up working with Kristen years later too, down at Stop and Shop down the road as well.
Yeah. So I went to see this. One night I was hanging out with Kristen and a couple other people, and I was like, "Do you guys want to go to the movies?" And they're like, "What do you want to see?" And I was like, "You got to see this movie Bulworth." And they were like, "Never heard of it." I'm like, "Yep, let's go." So we went to the now non-existing Hoyt Cinema in Waterbury at the time. 5 weeks later, that's all it was still playing it. And they liked it a lot too. So I don't know. I've always been into this. Like I said, I bought it on DVD, and unfortunately that's where it's kind of ended at this point, but we'll see what happens in the future for Mr. J. Bulworth. And I will say, I did think today, rethinking about the movie and knowing that we're going to talk about it, that it seemed to me that like Warren Beatty was smart enough of a actor. And listen, I'm not into actors being politicians and everything. I'll say that right away or whatever. But I'm not down for the cult of personality of it all. But I do think he's smart enough to actually. He probably could have run for office in some capacity and actually been pretty good at it. It seems to me. But I'm not surprised that you said that, because I had that thought myself.
Yeah. He almost ran for governor of California in 2000, but that was when everything got bogged down because there was a recall election and there were 43 people on the ballot of the recall election. That was when Schwarzenegger won. And he was like, his main competition was going to be Schwarzenegger, and he was just like, I'm not putting in this effort anymore.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I remember Camp Chaos did all those little cartoons about the ads, about the political ads during that, where they had they had an animated Schwarzenegger and an animated Warren Beatty going back and forth. Like Schwarzenegger would be talking, like half his face would fall off, and it would be the freaking Terminator skull. And then they go back and he's like, Warren Beatty, just to remind you, I boned Madonna, and he's holding up a pair of panties. And then it goes back to Schwarzenegger's like, oh come on, who hasn't boned Madonna? Come on, everyone.
Well, that taps back into the cult of personality of it all, because when my brother that now lives in Florida, visited my brother who lived in California at the time, said brother bought a Governator t-shirt. So there you go.
You know, strangely enough, just a little side comment. He was in the pocket of some things, but he did do a few good things for the state while he was there.
No,
you know, yeah.
I remember the Schwarzenegger run as governor as being very rocky to start, and when he left, it was in a very different light than the beginning. So a couple of notes I have. So I mentioned about the writing credits.
Mm-hmm.
There were two people that did a great deal of uncredited work on the script to get it up to par for Beatty, and that was James Toback and Aaron Sorkin.
Really?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, I thought you were going to say maybe Elaine May. She did a lot of punch-up stuff in the 90s, and she had a prior working relationship with Warren Beatty with Ishtar.
Yeah. Also, originally the character of the Rasta Man, who, the magical Negro, was supposed to be played by Melvin Van Peebles.
Oh.
But he was replaced by Amiri Baraka during filming reshoots because Melvin couldn't make it to the reshoots time. Because originally those little bits weren't in there. That was like a thought that came up with it. They want basically Beatty and Sorkin were talking and they wanted something like a Greek chorus, but they couldn't give him a lot. So they came up with that, and Melvin was interested, but he was busy doing something else. So Amiri Baraka came and stepped in to do it, which I love Amiri Baraka. Like, if anyone's a fan of Serpent in the Rainbow, he was amazing in that movie. But yeah, and that's why it seems like it's throwaway lines, but it's really piecing things together as it goes along. Yeah, I always kind of dug that. Plus, you talk about how the rapping was cringy. The rapping was supposed to be cringy, but the words he spoke were pretty profound. If you go back,
some of those rhymes were pretty brutal.
Oh, I know.
He a couple of them. He was really stretching it there, and there's only so much of that, old white guy kind of rap that, that cliche. There's only so much that my ears can take.
Yeah. And one other note I have on here that I found that I thought was fucking amazing, because I literally said something to this effect several times during his term. In 2013, the New York Times reported that President Barack Obama had, in private, talked longingly of going Bulworth on everyone in reference to the film.
That's great.
Which I the moment he won his second term and he was halfway through it and they were completely fucking with him. I'm like, he needs to show up at the State of the Union, just walk up to the podium, light up a Newport and be like, y'all motherfuckers are stupid. I would have.
I'm not surprised Barry has his finger on the pulse of good film. He say what you want about the man. He releases a film and music list every year, and there's always bangers on it.
So. Yep. Barack Obama's America's cool grandpa now. It was Joe Biden when Barack was in power, and now Barack's taking that from Joe.
Can't let Joe have anything.
Well, no, he had it for a while, but it's time to retire.
Well, it's definitely time to retire.
Yeah, Barack can hold up that mantle for the next 25 years. So anyway, yeah. We lost Mark.
Oh no. Hopefully we can get that back.
I just sent him a thing in the group chat. We lost Mark. That's not good.
Well, I guess while we wait for him, we can still let them know where to watch it.
Oh yes, absolutely. That was my plan. Yeah. So it's not on any streaming services as part of the subscription. However, if you want to watch it currently, you can rent it as video on demand on Fandango at Home, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and Google Play. So, video on demand for, less than $5 at all those spots. That's worth it.
They can message me and
went out for a second.
Okay. They can message me and I can lend them the DVD if they need it.
Yeah. The rip I have on my library is actually it's an HD DVD rip from Europe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's why I got the good widescreen and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even attempt to pull out my DVD.
Yeah.
After your Meet the Feebles was much higher quality. I just sick with that. Oh man.
Sorry, folks, technical difficulties. Me typing. Oh, here he is. There we go.
My internet went out. They're doing construction down the road, and so my periodically going on and off.
Good old Plainville.
Actually, on 2 spots on my street, so
Jesus,
ugly.
Yeah. So but we just went over where it can be found in video on demand, so we got that out of the way. So
cool.
Now that Mark's back, we should get to Mark's next.
All right.
Plus, just bear with me while the trailer still plays because I'm going to refill my coffee, but I should be back with plenty of time. But Mark, let everyone know what your choice was for this week.
This week I chose 1981's Blowout.
And away we go.
It began with a sound that no one was ever supposed to hear.
He's the one who saw it? Yes, he says he pulled a girl out of the car.
I would like you to forget about her.
Yeah, that's what I heard just before the tire blew out. You're right, it was a shot.
He recorded a murder they say never happened.
There's still loose ends, witnesses. The girl, I've decided to terminate her. Terminate her. Terminate her.
Brian De Palma's Blowout. Now you hear it. Now you don't.
All right. I'm going to pull up my notes on the other side here. So, De Palma Blowout was released in 1981. It was written and directed by Brian De Palma, starring John Travolta, Nancy Allen, John Lithgow, Dennis Franz. On a budget of $18 million, its global box office pulled in $13.8 million at the end. The synopsis is, while recording sound effects for a slasher flick, Jack Terry stumbles upon a real-life horror, a car careening off a bridge and into a river. Jack jumps into the water and fishes out Sally from the car, but the other passenger is already dead, a governor intending to run for president. As Jack does some investigating of his tapes and starts a perilous romance with Sally, he enters a tangled web of conspiracy that might leave him dead. All right, Mark, dealer's choice. When are you going to let us know why you chose it?
I'll let you know up front.
Okay.
The reason I chose this is because I really, really like this movie, and I found that it's pretty underrated, underseen. Not just like, I mean, it's an 80s classic, but most of the people that I bring it up to are just like, oh, yeah, I've heard of it. It's never seen it. And I thought it deserved a second look.
All right. You want to go ahead, Greg?
Yeah, sure. This is exactly a second look for me. I don't know where I read or was told or was, pushed to watch it. It was so long ago that I got it. Netflix mailed a disc to me, and I'm pretty sure it was a DVD because it looked pretty.
Whatever you say, Grandpa.
Yeah, it looks pretty not great. So, I do some crazy things for this podcast, or a little bit out of the ordinary. I found one Barnes & Noble that had the Criterion 4K disc of this. It was like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
So I was prepared to drive an hour, but the day I almost drove an hour, I found it right next to one of my accounts. They had just gotten it that day, and the lady had to open up a bunch of boxes to find it.
Oh, wow.
But you found the Criterion? Oh, wow.
I did get the Criterion 4K.
Yeah, the version I have on the drive is Criterion.
Yep. So I wanted it to look as good as it could because I knew the first time I saw it, it didn't look good. And then I realized the reason it didn't look good on the DVD is because it also does not look good on the 4K. the outside scenes at the beginning they look very grainy. Not even grainy, not like film grain, like washed out grain. Yeah. But the rest of it looks fantastic. Great disc. If you are a huge fan, I recommend it.
The trailer I pulled was actually the original 35 millimeter trailer.
Okay. Yeah. So nice. I have a bunch of I actually find this pretty funny too, for a movie that is a big drama and a murder thriller. The sleazy movie director or producer that Travolta works for, he's got a film poster in his office, Lure of the Triangle.
Oh yeah, with the bikini bottom. Yeah.
Oh man, I lost my shit on that.
I love that when he's listing off movies at the beginning, he says Bordello of Blood. I'm like, hey.
Yep. I did notice that. It's a really good thriller. It's funny because I wrote down that this movie is a love letter to film editing disguised as a thriller, because they focus so much on the sound and the editing of film with sound over it.
And all the shots of the sound equipment it's like shot so lovingly in this beautiful light. Yeah, it really is.
It's definitely, you can tell De Palma is like a film nerd, geek, whatever you want to call it. Like he's way into like the process of film. So I like it on almost every level. It plays well in all of it. John Lithgow somehow always plays an incredible villain.
He's so creepy here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they ended up using him as the Trinity Killer in Dexter, because they probably probably remembered this movie and was like, oh, we got to get this guy. So
I haven't watched.
Oh, in the first frame of that season that he's the killer.
I haven't watched Dexter at all. I've meant to get around to it. I never did.
Well, if you ever do get around to it, if you ever do get around to it, watch the first 4 seasons and just pretend that's the end.
That's what advice.
Yeah, but I did get a kick out of the beginning because they show the filming of like the B horror movie, and I think De Palma was like, all right, man, how can I get some tits into this thing? I found a way. I got it.
Because the rest of the film is surprisingly non-sexual, especially for a thriller with a male and a female lead love interest. It's surprisingly non-sexual.
I think that might be a reaction to his other films, like Dress to Kill and Body Double are they're erotic thrillers, right? Yes. I haven't seen either of them. But,
oh wow, yeah, you should.
Yeah, and I thought in the same vein of like the editing and stuff, De Palma shoots the same scene with the same sounds, but they're shot in different angles. When the first scene plays and it replays, it's really just it's a technical really leans on all the technical aspects of film in a really cool way. So I definitely really liked it a lot. A second time, I gotta be honest, seeing it the second time, I didn't remember like almost any of it. I remember the actual pivotal scene at the beginning that captures all the sound and everything, and for some reason I remembered the very ending. And like everything in between, like I was like, yeah, I don't remember any of this at all.
Do you mean the ending with the fireworks?
Well, the right before that too, when they're in front of that, like the sign, the lit up sign, and he's got her on the roof or whatever, like
she's
that,
screaming to him.
Yeah, from that point to the end, I remember everything. So it's so weird. And I did think the only thing that like was weird, was interesting or kind of weird to me in the movie is that it focuses, you know, you're primarily seeing it from John Travolta's like vantage point most of the movie, and then there's a part where you're following John Lithgow, and it's like, okay, like it's not bad or anything. It's just it's sort of an abrupt like about face. And but I think it's actually needed to show just how like sadistic like his character is, because you know I think the people that hired him to do this job didn't know what they were buying into.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I did think, like, again, I find weird things funny about it, but I thought it was hilarious that the hooker wanted to brush the last trick out of her mouth before the next guy. Very hygienic and classy of her.
That started to feel like a Looney Tunes cartoon where he's trying to strangle her, but she keeps turning. He's like, "Whoop, not yet. Okay, let me try again."
It's so funny because I looked up that actress, and she only had one on-screen role this movie, and then she became the costume supervisor on The Terminator, and then a costume designer on The Abyss, The Craft, Dick, which is great, Spy
That's a great
Kids,
movie.
Spy Kids, and some of the Battlestar Galactica shows. So she went from like, hey, I had this one part in this movie to like, wow, pretty fantastic career in Hollywood with costumes. So,
Well, if I was only in one movie, there's a chance I would pick Blowout because it's a
There you
pretty
go.
damn good movie.
Yeah. And last two things, I thought De Palma also films that high-speed chase through Philly. Pretty amazing. Really awesome. And you know, I'm a kind of guy who likes downer endings or left of center, you know, non-satisfying. You know, there's no actual justice aside from Travolta killing the killer, but in this instance, that might be all that is needed. So, and I gotta say, Nancy Allen, I'm a fan. It took me a little while to place her as a RoboCop sidekick. But,
And Lewis. She's
yeah.
also in Carrie.
So yes, I'm a fan. Very, very happy to have it in the collection though. So
cool. Joe.
Sorry, my phone is blowing up for some reason. So I hadn't seen this movie before, so it was a first viewing for me. And as I was taking my notes, I initially liked this movie. And my exact note was, you had me until the 40-minute mark. I was thrilled with this movie and what was going on until the scene where they're in the bar after the train station. Because that's when he's asking her how she does stuff, and she asks him how he got into doing sound. And now all of a sudden he's retired special ops who knows how to fuck corrupt cops. Gee, I wonder how the rest of this fucking movie plays out. To the point, I just paused it and went, Jesus fuck. And I left it for 10 minutes. And I came back and went, there's an hour of this left. And that's when I just started having problems with everything, to the point where, and like, I liked
it all fell apart just from that.
Yes, because I like De Palma. You could tell this is a De Palma film through and through. It's got the split screen at the beginning, the entire cinematography of it. You could tell it's a Brian De Palma movie. And I like De Palma. But here's the fucking problem is, okay, so now we know this is how we got in, so he knows how to bug people. So you know that's going to place something into the conclusion. You see Lithgow, and you're wondering, like, at first you're thinking he's just this fuck up hitman who keeps killing the wrong chick. But no, he's purposely killing sex workers so he can make it look like a chain, so that way it doesn't come back. I'm like, okay, so I get it. So I'm like, okay, so we've established that this guy also is dark ops, because like right at the beginning when you see that he's going to replace the tire and you see the empty box or the magnetic tape eraser, we're like, okay, so he's already a step ahead of Travolta at this point. We know
he's an assassin. He's a professional assassin.
Right, exactly. But so you basically got two guys with a special set of skills who are going one-on-one with each other, but it's a Brian De Palma film. So you know it's not going to have a fucking happy ending. So you know that by the time Nancy Allen gets fucking offed on that, I didn't care. I was just like, kill her. I don't fucking care. I was just like, kill her. Her voice is annoying me anyway. Fucking kill her. I don't care. There is no happily ever after in De Palma land. Kill her. I don't care. And then just the fact that the aftermath, like, yeah, okay, she died. He's heartbroken. All that's no, back it up. Capital letters in my notes. Ugh, they had to fucking say it. The scene with Nancy Allen and Dennis Franz, where the fucking bastard has to turn and go, "This is gonna be bigger than the Zapruder film." Fuck you. I was sitting here the whole time going, you could have skated that line without ever saying that.
Yeah.
And people would have understood. That was just like hammered on the fucking head.
Pretty much every frame of Dennis Franz I could have done without. He's in full on cartoon mode.
Dennis Franz prior to NYPD Blue always played that stereotypical scumbag villain.
Mm-hmm.
Everything he did before NYPD Blue was
Psycho 2.
Yep. Like everything. and then like just the end, like, okay, I get it. So she dies. You have the recording of her. And I knew that was the moment she screamed at the balcony. I'm like, now he's got to scream, because like, that was the beginning of the movie. Like De Palma always likes to bookend shit. Like,
that's actually in my notes. I need to go into that too a little bit later.
Right. But then like, we get to the end and it's like, okay, so he still has a copy of the sound. He doesn't have the film, but he has a copy of the sound. He killed Burke, and he could basically say, listen, I was following them because of this and everything. He still just said, fuck it anyway, and didn't try to expose this shit. Like, the guy that they hired to kill him is dead. You have an out to actually expose what the fuck was going on. Even if it's a cold trail as to Burke was the last person in the line and they don't know who above him did it, you at least can still have that resolution. But he just says, nope, fuck it, I'm miserable. I'm going to sit here and cry and keep wallowing in my own self-deprecation of being a sound guy for a shitty movie studio in Philly.
I think it had a deep effect on him. I think at the end of the movie, he was just sad. He had the life beaten out of him, you know.
And I get that, but at a time like that where you've had the life beaten out of you and you need to realize, what have I been fighting for? I've got to do something. I got to pick myself up and fucking make something out of this. Like, right. It seemed like he just took the bitch route. That's just me, I guess. I don't know. First 40 minutes of this movie, I was fucking into it. I was like, yeah, let's fucking go to Palma. And then this, and I'm like, fuck this game.
You raised some valid points. Actually, one of the biggest problems I have with this movie is the very ending, where Travolta finally finds that scream. I found my perfect scream. And then he goes, it's a good scream. It's a good scream. Like, I really rolled my eyes at that part. But that's really my only major issue, aside from I think it runs a little bit long.
Yes.
But other than that, that's really my only issue with it. I love the sound design, obviously. I loved the cinematography. The soundtrack is so good. It's so good that Quentin Tarantino actually stole it for that scene in Death Proof.
Yep.
And I think because it has that really sad undertone of like a tragic love story almost, and it fit really good in that scene in Death Proof as well. I think that's a testament to the score. Let's see. Let me double check my notes and see if I have anything else there.
Like, one of the other things it's just like when she shows up at his house and she's like, oh, the reporter called me. He's like, I didn't give him your number. Oh, well, he must have figured out, blah, blah, blah. Like, why wouldn't you just take the extra 5 seconds to try calling the reporter's office from a payphone?
I think because they were under the gun, like the clock was ticking. Maybe
you're in Philly. There's 18,000 payphones from there to the fucking train station. There's payphones at the train station. People are getting blowjobs in them.
It's also a movie. Okay. And you have to condense things. And
you have to condense things in a movie that went way too long.
All right. But guys, how good was Travolta?
He was good.
How good is he in this?
I'll give him that.
Amazing. I think he really nails that. It's like he's this guy who's working in sleazy B movies. We know we get his history and stuff too, which I really like that flashback scene, by the way. But he's smart enough and skilled enough to actually try to solve this mystery. And this guy, Travolta just fits this role like a glove. Like he's really believable, and you see him kind of like losing his mind a little bit, like in the conversation. Like by the end, he's just like tearing his hair out.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fantastic performance, and 100% makes up for the fanatic.
Am I gonna have to have this high fidelity moment now?
You know what he followed?
Should a man be forgiven for his latter-day sins due to his earlier catalog? Is it better to burn out than to fade away?
Yeah.
But do you know what he followed this performance up with?
Oh God.
It was either Staying Alive or Urban Cowboy.
Staying Alive.
That's right.
Urban Cowboy was before.
So I like Staying.
This was the sandwich.
I had some other notes about the film. Yeah, I actually have a note about Tarantino. He says he consistently praises the movie, listing it alongside Rio Bravo and Taxi Driver as his 3 favorite films.
Oh, you know it's weird because I'm reading that Tarantino book, and well, I'm not reading it because I realize I don't know, I haven't seen most of the movies or all of the movies in it, so I'm gonna watch them before I read what he writes about them. But he doesn't write about Blowout, which is interesting.
Wow. Yeah, and apparently this is a pseudo remake. It was directly based on Michelangelo Antonioni's 1966 film Blow Up. The film replaces the medium of photography with audio recording. The concept of Blowout came to De Palma while he was working on the thriller Dressed to Kill. But yeah, so it was an Antonioni film first.
Interesting.
So it'd be good to do a comparison, and maybe that sheds a different light on some things. I'll have to seek it out because, yeah, I dug it until a third in. It had me, and then it didn't.
Well, it could have not had you at all. So I guess
it's just true. Like Travolta's performance is very good. Nancy Allen's performance in it was just she wasn't likable to me at any point. Because it's like you want okay, yeah, it's like she was obviously helping a hustler and all this shit, but she never redeemed herself to me.
True.
So, yeah. I was just like, does De Palma just have a fetish with killing her off? Because I don't think she's lived in any De Palma film she's done.
Really?
Yeah.
She must die.
She must die. I mean, geez, they waited until the 3rd RoboCop movie to kill her off.
I don't know. I just saw the poster for Blow Up, and yeah, I'm in. Come on.
All right. Well, let's see here. So if you are interested in viewing Blowout, it is currently, where'd I go? It is currently streaming on Tubi, Pluto, Fubo, Sling, and Dailymotion. And I'll put the link to the Dailymotion link below. So that way you've got easy access. But Pluto's a free service. Tubi's a free service. If you're subscribed to Sling, it's on there. So there's various ways to watch it for your viewing pleasure.
It's also on MGM Plus, but I don't think anyone.
I don't know anyone that actually has MGM.
I don't think that's a real thing. I think that's fake.
No, I have Sling and MGM Plus is included with it. So without any upcharge.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I when I see things hit MGM Plus, I'm like, will they be on Amazon? Will they be on Amazon in 7 more weeks? So
it was one of the other services I think it's listed on as VIX. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It's like Vapor Rub has its own streaming service now.
Too funny.
Okay, so I guess that means it's my turn.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the movie I pulled this edition is 1988's Caddyshack 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
What goes around comes around. Welcome back to Caddyshack.
Hey, Ty, you're looking well.
Hey, nice to see you, Vinny.
Ted, whatever.
Bushwood Country Club.
So, want to join old Bushwood, huh?
Where snobbery's a way of life.
We just don't feel your Bushwood material. I want to buy Bushwood Country Club. Well, let me ask you this. Do I own it?
But now its members are gonna get what they deserve.
What do you think? Isn't it great? It's great, isn't it?
Good God. The Shack is back.
Our members will never stand for this.
It's a story of high culture.
I was looking for a polygrip. No. That blue stuff you put your combs in? No.
And subculture.
I got you now, you little furry freak.
Sophisticated ladies.
You did that on purpose. Well, I won't be a caddy all my life. I'm going to car wash school in the fall.
And perfect gentlemen.
Have you ever seen a crisp $50 bill?
I tell you what, if I pull the arrow out, will you please suck out the poison for me?
Caddyshack 2.
Is there any money in it for me?
I have no clue why the trailer froze while I was playing it. Apologies to those of you viewing. So, where did you go? Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Caddyshack 2, released in 1998, was written by P.J. Torquevey, Harold Ramis, Jeffrey Price, and Peter S. Seaman. Directed by, Harold Ramis has a writing credit, even though there's not a lot that he contributed. Yes, I know.
Thank you.
Directed by Alan Arkish, starring Jackie Mason, Robert Stack, Randy Quaid, Chevy Chase, and Dan Aykroyd. On a budget of $20 million, its worldwide box office pulled in was $11.8 million. Synopsis is, when a crass new money tycoon's membership application is turned down at a snooty country club, he retaliates by buying the club and turning it into a tacky amusement park. So, I have a lot to say. I mean, portions. So yeah. I will let you know at the beginning why I chose this in short form, and then I will delve in later. But my short form is I think this movie gets a bad fucking rep. And I'll elaborate further later.
Okay.
Mark, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first. I would like to start off by saying, I agree with you, Joe. This movie does get a bad rap. However, it deserves it. I hated this movie. I hated everything about it. It's about Caddyshack. It's about caddies, rather, and the caddies are barely characters at all. It's basically a failed sequel that was supposed to star Rodney Dangerfield, and when he dropped out a month before filming, they scraped whatever they could left over of what they had of a script and rewrote it and reworked it into this. Let's see. I got a quote here by the director, Alan Arkish, who said, quote, "I should have never made this movie. What was I thinking?" I think that sums it up. Jackie Mason, I think, was the only kind of funny thing in here because I just think he's funny in general, but everything he did just felt like second-rate Rodney Dangerfield. Even the gadgets and stuff that he had and the wacky hat and everything. I loathe Dan Aykroyd's voice. Come on. The jokes were so predictable. I was watching this and predicting what punchlines were going to be. And in fact, when Dan Aykroyd, it's in the trailer, when Dan Aykroyd gets stabbed in the ass with an arrow, the first I said it out loud. "Oh, can you suck out the poison for me?" And 2 seconds later, he says it.
You pull it out. I suck. Is there any money in it for me?
Oh,
I'm sorry. It was just unforgivable. I'll leave it at that. Greg, you want to go? Want to take it from here?
Sure. You can tag me in. Yeah, I saw this in the theater. My dad had the wonderful idea to bring us. I thought it sucked then. So when you're a kid and you think it's terrible, that's a bad sign. You're 9 years old and you're like, what is this piece of shit? Yeah, I mean, where do I start? So I think this is not only one of the worst sequels of all time. I think it's one of the worst comedies of all time. That being because you don't laugh at all during this movie. The only time I did is when Randy Quaid went crazy in the lawyer's office at the first scene, which I actually did think was funny and could have used more Randy Quaid. When do you say that about a movie? Not too much, unless he's in a Christmas Vacation or something of that ilk. It's few and far between. But yeah, I just, Mark showed us The Fanatic and Joe said, hold my beer. Let me grab my bottle of Opus One, hoist this snifter of Louis XIII, because man, oh man, this is so bad. It even got the only horrendous Kenny Loggins theme song when he usually comes through with banger after banger.
I think this is a better Kenny Loggins soundtrack than the first movie.
Oh no, no.
All right, guys, I gotta go. Have a good night. Good luck for the rest of the show.
I as I usually do in with this podcast, I did rewatch the first movie directly before watching this, and obviously they did try to just replicate it for the most part. And again, Mark was right. They wanted Dangerfield. He was already mad at them because he was paid nothing for the first movie and it became huge. So he felt slighted about it and he held them up for every dollar that he could milk them for. And when they kept giving into every demand because they wanted him back so bad, he would just ask for more things to where it became, they were like, we're not going to do this anymore. Like he wanted like a hot tub in his trailer.
Dangerfield was impossible in the preparation of this movie.
So it's like they probably should have just like cut their losses and been like, let's just not move forward with this because it doesn't make any sense. That's
exactly what Harold Ramis tried to get them to do, is to cut their losses. He begged them not to make this.
I don't understand it. So much of it doesn't make sense. Like, why is it not the original club? Could they not shoot it at the same place? Like, it's not even the same. Like Mark said, there's no caddies. There's no Caddyshack. Actually, what the actual quote is from Alan Arkish, because when I started the movie, one of my notes was, who the fuck is Alan Arkish? Yeah. And when I went into Letterboxd to look at some reviews from this movie, I accidentally stumbled across Alan Arkish's Letterboxd review of his own movie, to where he wrote, I should have never made this movie. There was only one caddy and no shack. What was I thinking? Almost Mark's line, word for word. And then he had a bunch of comments in the review, and he wrote to somebody, after years of reflection, I have come to terms with this misfire. It should have never been made without the original team on both sides of the camera. They had the chemistry, the camaraderie, and it was their story. We were the dinner theater version. A comedy like the original is a team sport, and they knew how to pass the ball. That's basically exactly correct. Like, you don't have the magic. You don't have any of it. It just does not work at all, to the point where when when Joe read the synopsis about he turns it into a playground or whatever, amusement park. Yeah, he does at some point, but it's such a little part of the movie. And then the daughter who's
blame IMDb for that shit, bro.
The daughter who's embarrassed by him only gets mad at him when he changes the country club because she loves golf. None of this makes sense. It makes no sense. And to Mark's point, Dan Aykroyd, I thought he was trying to do like a similar voice to Bill Murray, but I actually found a quote of Dan Aykroyd, and he was trying to do somebody else's.
He was.
Yeah, I forget who it was. I don't remember.
It's escaping me too. I should have written in the notes, but yeah, he was trying to
I'll
not be Bill Murray.
I'll probably find it while you're talking. But and also, like, if his daughter's so mad at him because he changed the course, why does he want to win the round so bad to keep the court to keep it the way it is? Like,
so it can be just like the first movie.
That's not why she's mad at him.
It's just, I mean, I don't know. So I remember this being promoted really heavily with just the gopher, and I understand why, because
because that's the marketing, that's where the money's made.
Well, also there's nothing else in it. It's shit. Like, they would have been better off with 90 minutes of the gopher running around. Like, I would have enjoyed that more. So I don't know. And
that's a really good idea.
Here's my
I'm amazed we didn't get a Caddyshack Saturday morning cartoon with the gopher.
Well,
yeah,
right. That would have been better, you know. But here's my major problem with this movie from a story perspective. They get Chevy Chase back, and to the point where they have to beg these guys so badly that I've never seen credits in a movie where it says special guest appearance by Chevy Chase and Dan Ark. I've never seen that build that way.
I have giant spider invasion.
All right. But I don't understand Ty Webb's character in this movie at all. He does not care about money in the first movie, to the point where a girl says, "You have a check here for $70,000." And he says, "Oh, you can take it with you if you want. Like, I don't care. I didn't even know I had it there." Here, every single time they talk to him, he says, "What's in it for me? What's the money angle for me? I want."
Yeah.
He sells the club just for money. He's a ladies' man in the first movie, and this time he's just like, what can get me more wealth? Why? Why is this character so different? None of it's explained at all.
He actually only says, "Is there any money for me?" at the end. When Jack asked to sell it, he's just like, "Let me ask you this: do I own it?" And then he's just like, "No, whatever." And he was like, sure, whatever. I don't care.
But the old Ty Webb wouldn't even entertain selling it because he doesn't care about money. He doesn't care.
But he also doesn't care about the club.
Maybe I shouldn't put so much stake in what the first movie does, because obviously
and I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah, and obviously that's probably part of the problem, but that's part of why it's such a terrible sequel, because it's so badly. It's just a train wreck. I mean, I don't know. Zero stars, no notes.
You know, Joe, before you jump in, I just wanted to say that the only scene that I really enjoyed, where I thought there was like a breath of air, or a breath of life into this, was that first scene with Jackie Mason and Chevy Chase when they're at the club and Ty Webb is playing billiards.
Yep.
I thought that, I'm like, oh, this movie's starting to like kick into gear here a little bit. Chevy Chase is being funny. He's doing his like shtick. We're dropping the pool cues and stuff like that. But then after that, it was nothing. And actually, the only real laugh I got out of this movie was from Chevy Chase, where he's at his mansion and he's talking to Jackie Mason, and they finish a conversation, and Chevy Chase just kind of casually looks at Jackie Mason and puts his arm around him and says, "Hey, you don't happen to have a twin sister, do you?" that got a genuine LOL out of me. But that was the only one, dude.
I have to ask, Mark, have you seen this before?
No.
Okay.
What?
I've seen bits of it through the years, but I've never seen it all the way through. This was the first time viewing.
Wow.
You're in for a treat.
I knew what I was in for. I was well aware that it was Caddyshack 2. So, Joe, care to add anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I did find what Aykroyd based his voice on. It was Oliver North.
Yes, that was it. Because Vietnam. Yep, that's right. It was.
First of all, random. Second of all, inaccurate.
I also found this random bit of trivia that Bill Murray opted out of this movie because he decided to do Scrooged instead. Yep. And I will say that is a great choice, Bill. Excellent choice.
Okay.
Excellent choice.
So, and you remember back when we did episode 0 and I talked about, modern audiences not realizing things that have to go into productions and all that stuff,
mm-hmm.
And the trials and tribulations sometimes when you find out what went into a movie. That that's part of the reason behind choosing this. And going back to my original statement of I think this movie gets a bad rep. So I also saw this in the theater when I was 8 years old. It was one of the first times my father brought me to the movies when I would go on Sunday matinees. So I have that memory. I also remember the original Caddyshack, you know, from the same time in my age, because VHS tape at home. And when you're 8 years old, guess what? Caddyshack 2 is more entertaining than the first one. That's just the way it is. As far as like, you know, like as Rodney Dangerfield movies, I would rather watch fucking Back to School than I would the first Caddyshack. And I understand Caddyshack is in a league of its own as far as comedy classics, and I'm not dogging it. My point is I grew up with this being on HBO nonstop. I've watched it hundreds of times, you know, growing up with it. And just, you know, like this, like some parts of this movie kind of like helped shape me growing up. It's a weird fucking dichotomy that I will explain, but it's in my notes. But I'll get back to that. But the other reason, going back to the trials and tribulations of going to, is over the past 5 or so years, there have been so many YouTube film analysis channels being done by these smarmy fucking Gen Zers who just look up Wikipedia shit and come out with a thing about, you know, everything that went on and how awful this movie was. And they're like, I never actually heard of this movie. And then I watched it and blah, blah. And I'm like,
right. Cause it's like easy to shit on. Like,
right. It's
fruit.
Exactly. It's punching below the fucking belt. Whereas there were some people, I think it was, I want to say it was Lathan Eversole might have recently did a video on it where he talked about a bunch of shit that went into it that people don't realize. So yeah. So originally Rodney Dangerfield was attached. Originally Rodney, you know, among one of the 1,000 demands Dangerfield gave was he wanted Sam Kinison to be in it. He wanted Sam Kinison to play Peter Blood.
The Randy Quaid character.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would have been good. Would have been good.
It would have. However, this is my issue. If the stars had aligned and they had gotten Rodney Dangerfield to do it, and they had gotten Sam Kinison to do that role, it would be less of a footnote in history now, because it would have still bombed at the fucking box office, because everyone went, it's a literal rehash to the first movie, and it's Rodney Dangerfield trying to get Sam Kinison into a movie again. He just did that with Back to School. We don't need to see that again, because Sam Kinison has, a lot of people have nostalgia glasses as far as Sam Kinison goes. Was he an innovator of comedy? Yes. Was he funny? Yes. However, most of his material does not age well, because he was an extremely fucking bigoted, homophobic bastard at times.
Yeah.
So guess what? And Rodney Dangerfield wasn't an angel as well. And I like, it has this legacy of being so horrible when it's the people did what they could with what they had. Jackie Mason, they chose him because he had just been on a long-running one-man Broadway show, and they wanted to do for Jackie Mason what the first movie did for Rodney Dangerfield. They wanted to see if he could translate into other movies, and that's why, like,
but they only wanted to do that after Dangerfield dropped out, and then a month later he was on set.
Dangerfield dropped out a lot longer before than 1 month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so then they were like, what? And Jackie Mason was brought up, and Jackie Mason literally put his effort into this movie. Like, yeah, his one-liners were chintzy, but they were from his fucking, they were from his one-man show.
He got some good little zingers in there and stuff, no doubt. He's not bad in this.
Yeah. And when I mentioned how, like, watching this growing up, it kind of, you know, it kind of shaped me in ways, was like, Jack is a self-made salt of the earth millionaire. He's got a heart and he understands the plight of the working man. He's a very likable individual. The whole thing at the beginning, when he's playing poker with the guys that work for him, the construction crew, and he folds just because he knows the guy's got a huge family. You know, he's just or like, you know, they talk about, you know, how he's building these apartments just for working class people, so people have a fucking place to live. Like, that's someone you want to aspire to be as a millionaire. Like Rodney Dangerfield was the I fell into money and I'm a fucking asshole. Like that's how you look. Like I'm a guy who's not refined, but I'm gonna shove it down your throat that I'm not fucking refined. Jackie Mason's character was I'm not refined, but I'm not trying to be. I just want to be who I am. You know, the whole they got roots like an oak tree, we got roots like a radish, you know, shit like that, you know, that he talks about. Let me see here.
That's all valid.
Yeah. Had Dangerfield, so you would have rehashed it by everything. The dressage segment could have been cut from the movie. That's the only part that I think was just over the top, stupid, cartoonish. The equestrian part. The line from the auction, "Think Mandingo," did not age well.
No.
Jack, what do you call it? Jack has good reason to buy the club out of spite, as far as I'm concerned. As far as going back to the daughter wasn't pissed with that. Okay, yes, she said you turned it into Coney Island, but that was like the cherry on top. It was the fact that his daughter was away. It was going to an Ivy League school because she got in on her own merit. She got into an Ivy League school, but automatically fell in with the rich fucking assholes who were trying to mold her. And she started thinking that material items are the way to go. And she had to learn the lesson on her own that her dad was trying to teach her the entire fucking time, is that you don't have to be like these fucking people. And yes, okay, there's no caddies. There's no, I mean, Jonathan Silverman's there, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, but one of the complaints I see a lot about this movie is there's not enough golf in it, because that's what made the first Caddyshack so fucking great, right? like, yeah, the Trick Clubs bit, that was obviously a Dangerfield bit that was supposed to be in there. I still laugh at the pacemaker bit. I'm sorry.
Okay, that I forgot about that. That did make me laugh as well. I think it comes back at the end of the scene where he gets up and he's like, "Oh, I'm okay. Must have been that chili dog or whatever." Yeah. But when it first happened, and he's like, "Oh, you know, it's known to affect pacemakers," and you see the guy just keel over.
Yeah, exactly.
That was funny. Yeah, you got me there.
And like, you know, like I said, as a kid, the gopher is what you come for. Like, you know, when you're 6 years old and you see Caddyshack for the first time, all you remember is the fucking gopher. So
for kids, yes,
right. Absolutely. But that's why this movie was PG. They were trying to aim at a family audience because they knew the gopher was where the money was going to be in it. Like, people want to see a Rodney Dangerfield movie, it's going to be rated R and they're going to go see it. They were trying to open it up. And I'm not saying everything they did was for a right reason or whatever, but I'm saying they did what they did with what they had. Shit happens.
I agree, but I almost wish they just said, okay, we're going to make a PG Caddyshack. We're going to have golfers and caddies, and we'll get Chevy Chase to come back for a little bit. And even if they lost Dangerfield and they got Jackie Mason, okay. But just focus on, like, get Bill Murray to come back at that point.
Why?
And because just have him fighting the Gophers again, like more of that. Draw that out. Like,
but that's a rehash of the first.
But I'd rather, but I'd rather that if they're going to focus on the Gophers than you know.
It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations where.
Well, I think like Mark said and Harold Ramis said, they just shouldn't have. That's pretty much
right. But it's like if
many vital pieces fell out. Like what's his name? Ted Knight passed away.
Yeah.
Like all these things happened, and it was like, okay, we got to just put this thing out of its misery. And instead they plugged forward with, I think, was doomed to be a subpar product.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's if they had got, like, the stars had aligned and everything, as I said, and everything went the original plan, it would be forgotten today, and people would be like, yeah, it was a cash grab nonetheless. I mean, I'm not saying that this wasn't a cash grab in the end, because they were, you know,
it's a sequel. Yeah,
exactly, it's a sequel, but at the same time, it's like it's the same thing with everything in Hollywood, whereas when the sequel tries to do something different from the original, everyone bitches. It's just like,
yeah, until you go back and reflect on it, you know, 20 years later, and you're like, oh no, actually this is like good or different, or they tried something at least, and it has its merits. So again, I've talked about this before of how I like sequels that really buck trend, you know, and do something drastically, it doesn't even have to be drastically different, but you spin it like a definite certain different way so that it's not just rehashing. I mean, I'm all for just going completely different and doing something incredibly, you know, totally unique take on it and whatever, even if it pisses the audience off. But that's usually what happens. You piss an audience off. So you're right. With sequels, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't a lot of the time. I mean, I saw Gladiator 2 and it's kind of Gladiator told again. But, you know, they try some stuff at least, and it's not a bad movie, but would you ever pull it off the shelf if you're got to choose between the two of them? Not really. I mean, so I don't know. Sequels are tough. You really have to, you know, I don't know. That's why they're sequels, you know, because you're doing something again. You're not. It's much easier to make sequels when you world build. I think that's why that's why John Wick works, you know, like the first movie is so basic, and then the other ones get and maybe you don't like that. Maybe you like the basicness of it, but at least they're spinning and, you know, spanning a world and building it up. It's where it doesn't just feel like the same old thing, even though it's, you know, a lot of action. But hey, story wise, at least they're doing something to advance it, and you're not just, you know, he doesn't just get another dog shot and go on a rampage again. So you know.
A couple of notes that I do have from this. The picture was nominated for 4 Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Picture and Worst Actor for Jackie Mason. The movie won 2 Razzies for Worst Original Song, Jack Fresh, and Worst Supporting Actor, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh man.
Which
I'm okay with that last one.
Yeah, Aykroyd is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what got into him here.
It's a matter as if you would put in Bill Murray as Carl, which is like, oh, it's more of the same. Like he was trying to do something different.
But it was just so obnoxious. Like, and I'm someone who defends his performance in the movie Neighbors with John Belushi. I actually like that movie, and I'm telling you, this was horrible.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah. One little Easter egg though, during one of the underground shots of the Gopher, we see an assortment of junk and he's collected in his home. And if you look closely, there's one of the C4 animals in the background from the first movie.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any notes I hadn't gone over yet. I mentioned Randy Quaid doing a better job than Sam. I think Randy Quaid did better than Sam Kinison would have, because you could see Sam Kinison in that role, and that's the problem. Is it's you the second you see Sam Kinison on the screen, you know he's going to start off scum and then start screaming.
Yep.
Right.
Like he was a one-note actor. I'm sorry. Like, you know, I used to listen to Have You Seen Me Lately religiously when I was 12, but not everything ages well with Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
You know, same thing we learned with Andrew Dice Clay years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, you know.
Did you know that this is the second time that Jackie Mason has played a character named Hartoonian?
Yes.
The first was in 1979's The Jerk.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I read that too. Yeah.
Yep. And see, world building. I'm joking on that, but yeah,
they made a sequel to The Jerk too, by the way.
I know.
Another story for another day.
I know.
TOO.
Yeah.
Yep. Going off of what you just said, because I actually would have I condensed something, and I understand y'all don't like the movie, and I understand that we're never going to see eye to eye on it. I get that. However, I get really mad, especially like when I see these smarmy fucking YouTubers sitting there going, "This is the worst sequel ever fucking made." Blah, 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 blah. So no. You see, what I have here is I've comprised a list of worst Part 2 sequels.
Oh, I'm ready to debate this. I can't wait.
American Psycho 2, Skeleton Key 2, S. Darko, Weekend at Bernie's 2, Porky's the Next Day, Staying Alive, Teen Wolf 2, More American Graffiti, Coming to America, Zoolander 2, City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold, Space Jam, A New Legacy, Speed 2, Cruise Control, Dumb and Dumber 2. Oh, by the way, I'm not finished. Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo, Evan Almighty, Troll 2, The Birds 2, Land's End, Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, Mean Girls 2, Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous, Jingle All the Way 2, Easy Rider, The Ride Back, Big Mama's House 2, Nutty Professor to the Clumps, and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. And I forgot to add at the end, The Jerk 2.
Can I touch on a few of those?
You forgot Splash 2.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I condensed a list. I figured doing 2 screens was enough.
Can I actually touch on some of those real
sure.
quickly? They are all terrible. Some of them I don't even think should count because they were like American Psycho 2 is like it's like straight to DVD or whatever. Whatever.
Still,
you know, I get
was
it,
shot
but
as something totally different, and after it was already completed, they shot additional scenes to link it to American Psycho.
Yeah, like it's like so I get that, but I have to say I love Charlie's Angels, the first movie.
The first movie, not Full Throttle. Full Throttle.
No, it's horrible. But so as someone who I don't think Charlie's Angels is like the beacon of cinema, but I love it. I have a great time with it. That sequel is trash. And what was the one on the top of the second slide? Can you bring it back up real quick? I'm sorry because
Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo.
Do you know the original idea for the sequel of Deuce Bigelow?
No.
It's fucking amazing, and I don't know why they didn't do it because it would have actually been in a great movie.
What was
Originally, he was supposed to go to a Hogwarts-like school of prostitution, and they were going to spoof the Harry Potter franchise.
Oh my God.
That would have been at least crazy different and like somewhat they could have made it fun. It would have been funny. Like I think. You don't think so?
Cringe.
I don't know.
That would have fallen into with date movie, disaster movie, Meet the Spartans territory.
I would take that over what it is. What it is. It's bad. That's
and
those movies. Yes, they all suck. They're all
one
terrible.
Final caveat that I would like to add is
I just want to jump in real quick here and defend Staying Alive. It's garbage. Make no mistake, it's garbage. But I, like you, Joe, and Caddyshack 2, I have a special place in my heart for this movie, and I think it's a glorious dumpster fire.
Well, listen. Part of doing this podcast, and I almost picked something that I recognize as a shitty movie that I love because I do have numerous movies.
We all have them.
Yeah, I have tons of movies where I'm like, I like it. I really like it. I'm well aware it's a piece of shit, but it's but I enjoy it. So, but at least I'm like cognizant of the fact that like I recognize like no, this is bad, but like something hits for me. So I understand that totally. I mean, you like Frank Stallone's soundtrack. You love it, so I get it.
I do.
There you go.
And just one last caveat that I would like to add on the subject of the Caddyshack franchise is I will sooner watch Caddyshack 2 than I will ever watch the god-awful fucking remake.
Remake?
There's a remake?
Yeah. Came out maybe about 10, 15 years ago. They just changed the title.
Oh.
It was called Who's Your Caddy?
Oh,
no
okay.
way.
That was supposed to be Black Caddyshack.
Oh, okay.
And then they realized we're fucked if we name this Caddyshack. And so they changed it because that was back when they were on that whole stench of let's remake everything with a black cast. Like that's when they had Cedric the Entertainer do The Honeymooners.
Oh no. Oh no. I just looked this up and the star of the movie is Big Boy from Outkast.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yes.
And who's the second billed person on IMDb, not on the poster, but
it's one of the Epps brothers.
Jeffrey Jones. Ouch.
Oh. Yeah, that's right.
No way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Oh, poor Terry Crews is in this movie. Oh man.
Yeah, Terry Crews was taking any role he could get at the time to try to get famous.
I mean, the poster, the main three poster names is Big Boy, Lil Wayne, and Andy Milonakis, and that's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I will sooner watch Caddyshack 2 any day over that bullshit.
Well, I kind of would almost say that you're right. So
sight unseen.
I don't need to watch Who's Your Caddy to know it's a piece of shit. So.
Oh yeah. But anyways, if you are interested in viewing Caddyshack 2 for whatever reason you so choose, it is currently available. Let me pull up the thing here so I get it right. is currently available as video on demand rental on Prime, Apple TV, Fandango, At Home, Google Play, and YouTube. Didn't pull off that banner. There we go. All right. So what that means, gentlemen, is we have reached the end of our selections for season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever is left will be the season finale. And all in honesty, I don't even remember what my last selection is. So this is going to be interesting for all of us.
I'm getting hazier and hazier as we get along. I'm like, what the hell did I put?
It's a good thing I remember mine because I had the piece of paper on the desk and I can't find it.
I'm sitting here shaking it up like it matters which one I pull. It's like rolling the bingo tumbler. There's one ball in there.
Huh.
Oh, God. Oh, okay.
What'd you get?
Right.
What'd you got?
My pull is The Perfect Host from 2011.
Okay. Mark.
I got 1998's A Simple Plan.
Okay. And I seriously can't find my piece of paper, which is really weird because I was looking at it the entire time. But I remember my selection. It is 2018's Teen Spirit.
Okay. All right. So we will be meeting back here in mid-December for the season finale of season 1 of Wildcard Cinema, at which time we'll let you know what we decide to do for that supplemental episode in between seasons. And we'll go from there. And now the holiday season is upon us.
Grown.
Deal with consumerism bullshit. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's all we got. I think we've touched on as much as possible. I'm gonna get this all situated, and we'll go from here. And we'll see each other in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
All right, gentlemen, you guys have yourselves a great rest of the Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks.
All right, later.
Take it easy.